Hello and welcome to the RedLaughRiot podcast. My name's Matt.
My name is Ben, and I can never find a more creative way to say that. I always think of it. I always think, can I say this in a more creative and interesting way? No, I can't.
I love how though every time I do it so much, I do it so much louder.
You do it, yeah, you're very consistent, and I'm always just like, I always leave this big awkward gap
It's
while
like
I'm trying to think of what to say.
It's an awkward gap, and it's just so quiet and timid. I love it though. It's great. Our main topic is obviously the 2010s has closed and 2020 has begun a new decade.
Hold on. What are you talking about? None of what you're saying makes sense anymore. I mean, chances are this podcast is not going to be released until 2021, in which case we're now speaking from the brand new decade starting January 1st, 2021, as discussed and established mathematically by the people that decided to make it. Arguably, yes, the entire calendar is arbitrary because it didn't start at the beginning of time. It started whenever the Romans decided to make a calendar, and they just wanted to start it at when they wanted to start it.
Yeah.
What matters is that we now abide by that calendar with literally everything we do in life. So why is decade not considered to be part of that structure of the calendar? That's all I have to say. Let's move on.
Anyway.
And no, the first decade didn't have 9 years. That's a stupid excuse. No, that makes no sense. Literally, a decade is just 10 years. Any period of 10 years is a decade, okay? That's simple to understand.
Yeah.
The decade began in year 1. It ended at the end of year 10, and so on and so on and so on. It's just math, guys. It's just math. Did you guys not do primary school?
Ben is looking at me with such intensity and rage.
So welcome to the new decade. What is, I guess, the biggest thing that's going to affect movies in this upcoming decade? And it is what has been happening in 2020. It's COVID-19. It's the way the rise of streaming.
Yeah.
It's the rise of people saying, you know what, I don't want to go out and watch movies in a theater. I can't be bothered. Or I literally can't because the movies are closed because it would not be safe to go.
Yeah.
What is the future? It's shitballs. Who knows, man?
Yeah.
It's crazy. It's crazy.
Yeah. I think it's definitely a case of, I think we're going to see potentially in the next 2 years, probably a little bit of suffering when it comes to the theater. You know,
a little bit is an understatement.
Little bit is a bit of an understatement.
Here's the thing that's like, it's hard to know what is fair to say. And on one side of it, yeah, theaters are suffering massively because people can't go to the theaters. But so people have been saying that, you know, since months ago when, you know, November, etc., James Bond and Black Widow get delayed, and they're like, we don't want to put it out unless there's theaters because we don't get enough money from it unless it's in a theater. Then, in my opinion, the greatest news to ever come out of this year comes out, and that is that Warner Brothers is going to release all of their 2021 movies simultaneously on HBO Max and in theaters. And the reaction to this, I've been shocked, has been so negative. People saying they're ruining business for theaters, blah blah blah. Theaters can't survive if they have to compete with HBO Max. And I'm like, well, hold on, the alternative was no movies coming out in theaters at all.
Yeah. So
why are you complaining? In my opinion, this is the greatest news because personally I'm a little bit obviously selfish, and here in New Zealand where we can safely go to movie theaters, I'm going to go to all these movies in a theater. Yeah. Assuming COVID doesn't break out again next year here in New Zealand, in which case we'd have to stay at home again. But, you know, we'll do that if we have to do that. But in the meantime, I'm going to go to all the movies that I can. Yeah, for sure. And I'm going to really enjoy that. And I think it's fine to release it online. If you can't safely go to theaters, what's wrong with watching a movie at home? You know what? If you think that ruins the experience for you, then you can hold off and wait, and you can see it when you can see it. But if there are people dying to see these big movies, like, release them, you know. I think it seems totally fair, and a lot of people aren't taking note of the fact that HBO Max only gets the movies for a month. After that month, it's only in theaters until it comes out on home video, iTunes, HBO, whatever it is that they release it on, Blu-ray and all that kind of stuff afterwards. So yeah, it's a small window. I think the biggest problem is that there are just lazy people who could actually go to a theater that are now going to be like, oh, but it's on HBO, why would I do that? And the people the kind of people that just want to be able to see the movie as soon as they can, I reckon to circumvent this, what they should have done is maybe say opening weekend, so like Friday, Saturday, Sunday, are only in theaters, and then from the Monday it goes online. That way, the people that want to see the movie first will actually go to the theater, assuming they can do safely. But then on the other side of that coin, it's like, well, we don't want to encourage people going to a theater if it might not be safe.
Yeah.
In which case, I mean, I think the responsibility falls on the theater themselves or the government in which that theater is. Because, when Tenet came out and everyone was blaming Christopher Nolan, saying, Christopher Nolan wanted to release a movie in a pandemic. What was he thinking about? But hold on. Don't blame him. Blame the people that decided to go out when it was not safe in their territory, or for the theaters that encouraged people to come along when it was not safe in their territory. In New Zealand, when that movie came out, in Auckland it wasn't safe, so the theaters were closed, and that was fine. And then about a week later, they were open again because it was safe.
Yeah.
And the rest of New Zealand, it was safe. So, and many places internationally, people say that Tenet did bad at the box office. It actually didn't. It did quite reasonably internationally. It did shit in the US, and that's because most US theaters were closed.
Yeah.
And that's the reason. And yeah, people who take the numbers from Tenet or the seeming performance of or underperformance of Mulan and assuming that that's what is a fair thing to compare, it's just not, because neither of those cases are normal at all.
Yeah.
Studios shouldn't be making big business decisions based on those two instances, and why I think the compromise of the simultaneous release is perfect. And I was saying this when Black Widow got moved, when James got moved, when Disney said they're going to release Soul, the new Pixar movie, which I'm really, really excited to see, but I won't. They said it's going to be exclusively on Disney Plus on Christmas Day. I'm like, but we've got theaters here. I want to watch it in a theater. I should be able to. And I was so mad. I actually emailed Event Cinemas, and because, I don't know if you've seen, they do advertisements for these, like, hire a theater to do some gaming. You can bring your own console. I was like, hey guys, could I bring my PS4 and watch a Disney Plus movie through your theater so that I could watch Soul in a theater? And like, oh, sorry, we can't do that. But I'm like, I tried. I'd give anything to watch that movie in a theater where it's designed to be seen. And I've heard some people who saw it in festivals earlier this year who saw it in a theater, and they're like, you need to see it in a theater. I'm like, why won't Disney not do this? And I'm really, 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 really holding onto this vain string of a half hair of hope that Disney will see what Warner's doing and be like, actually, maybe we should also do that, because there are places where we could still make money out of the theaters. Yeah, and they could. I think they'd make more money if they released it in terms of just the people who watch it in New Zealand. They'd make more money by families with children going out and paying for 5 movie tickets to see a movie, as opposed to just one person who pays a monthly subscription and then shares it with 5 other families. Yeah. Like, they're going to make more money, more dough here specifically anyway, from releasing it in a theater, in my opinion. I mean, I don't know how much marketing costs, but honestly, they're still going to pay marketing for the Disney Plus release. So surely it wouldn't be that big a difference. I reckon that easily be totally worth their while. Admittedly, New Zealand is tiny, and that's what everyone says. Oh, tiny. New Zealand's like the smallest country. It's like a rounding error. I'm like, there's a lot of people here though, and we like watching movies, and I know it sounds selfish, but I want to be able to see this movie the best way I can. Yeah. I feel like I have a right to that. Yeah. And it sucks. I'm not going to pay. I've unsubscribed to Disney Plus a couple months ago because I'm just sick of their decision making, and I don't want to pay for something that I should be able to go watch in a theater. I would only pay for a Disney movie now if I get to see it in a theater.
No, that's fair enough.
Man, that was a long tangent.
That was a very long tangent.
Well, it wasn't even a tangent. It's all very relevant to what we're talking about.
Yeah. No, I think to go back to thing in regards to the backlash that Warner Brothers faced with the HBO announcement, I think a lot of people probably just read the headline and then reacted, which I think is very common.
That is this decade in a nutshell.
Yeah.
Reacting to a headline.
I mean, that's literally our segment.
Guilty. But at least I read the comments and fact check. Usually. Yeah.
Yeah, like because when you mentioned the fact that it was that they're releasing both in theaters and HBO Max, like I didn't know that. I just thought it was just HBO Max.
Oh right. Well, look at that.
Yeah, and so I think that makes it better, and I think that, like, obviously it's a case of, COVID's not going to go away anytime soon.
No, and even though there's a vaccine that might work, doesn't mean that all the problems are going to go away in the click of a snapping fingers. Like, no, it's going to be years before that is realistically spread throughout the entire population, and that it's actually safe to just go around.
Yeah, like, exactly.
Yeah. People with their hopes up, and before it was even, and this recent one was even announced as being a feasible thing, there were still people just assuming that there'd be a vaccine in April and that movies can come out in April. Like, but why? Why are you assuming that? What's the big assumption?
Yeah.
Like, even if this one that's going on now is successful, it doesn't mean things are going to be safe and okay in April. Even if everyone who immediately right now, if everyone got a vaccine just like that, it still wouldn't be safe because there's still people that are still sick. Like the vaccine doesn't cure you.
Yeah.
You know, it still takes time. There's still
and also a certain order.
And there's a whole economic side of it as well. That
businesses
might not be able to go back into business immediately. Some theaters are going to be closed permanently.
Yeah, and there's also, I think, as well, something that's important to remember is the fact that I can't remember off the top of my head the percentage of a population that does need to be vaccinated in order for it to be successful, but it's quite a high percentage. I believe it was like 80 to 90%.
Sounds right. Yeah.
And I remember there was a recent poll done in New Zealand that showed that 20% of people have said that they won't get the vaccine. So you have that issue as well, you know, of the anti-vaxxer movement. Yeah, as well, you know, to play, which comes into play as well. So yeah, you know what I mean? Like it's such a multifaceted issue.
They don't even deserve to be called a movement. Don't call them a movement. That's not what they are. They're a bunch of shitheads. Literally know nothing.
Nothing about.
It's not even just that they won't listen to science. It's that they are actively harming other people.
Oh yeah.
Like it's like if you want to just be an ignorant slut, you know, that's a Office reference, by the way. Just in case you were thinking anyway. I shouldn't have to explain. Anyway, what was I saying? If you just want to be an ignorant doodack, then, you know, you can just be that as long as it doesn't harm anyone else. But in this case, not getting a vaccine of any kind is actively harming the people in your community, and that's just shitty beyond anything.
Because the reason why vaccines are a thing is because, you know, it's for herd immunity, and that some people can't get the vaccines, you know, because they have certain illnesses or they have cancer or something like that. And so it's to protect them. So, you know, if you can't get a vaccine for one of those reasons, that's valid. But if you just think, you know, and the whole damn anti-vaxxer thing, and this I think is what annoys me the most about it, is it's based on one fucking scientific study, right? Which was debunked, not only debunked, but the guy who wrote it was like, had his license stripped from him.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
And even if the statement that vaccines cause autism were true, even if that were true, getting autism is still not nearly as bad as any of the diseases that you could have from not having a vaccine. I'd argue getting autism is not even a bad thing at all. People have autism and still have great lives. Yeah. I've been watching a TV show called Atypical on Netflix, which centers around a guy with autism, and actually, like, it's really, really intriguing. Yeah. And yeah, he's got difficulties, but like, and obviously there's different levels on the spectrum. Yeah. And he's a reasonably capable guy, but he still has all these difficulties. And you're like, actually, like, he's just another guy. He's just another human. Like, what? Yeah. Like, there are people in this world that would rather have that child die of a horrible disease than live with autism, because they don't want to be seen as a parent with a kid with autism. Because I think that shows. I think that shows the stigma and the ignorance of autism, which is also, you know, is a completely other issue, I think, as well. Yeah, but again, that's not even something you should have to argue about. Because it's not true. Yeah, exactly. It's that's the thing about it, and I think what's so frustrating about it as well. I don't know. They can't. There's no logic, you know. Yeah. There's no logic going on in their brains whatsoever, so you can't even argue it. Did you? I remember reading a thing, and it was saying that in order to argue against them, what works better is stories of mothers who had someone with the illnesses that are used, you know, whether it be whooping cough or something, are more effective than the actual facts, right? In terms of people don't listen to facts; they listen to emotions. Yeah, because that's what they use when they make their arguments. They talk about their emotions. They don't talk about facts. Yeah, or physical thing. How the hell did we start talking about this? Weren't we talking about movies? Yeah, we were talking about theaters. The COVID vaccine. Theaters, COVID vaccine, then anti-vaccine. But that's how podcasts work, man. You just go on tangents and stuff, and it's great. So like, I guess, like, Here's the thing that I am wary of. And it's like, I love that Warner's is saying that they want to release their movies in theaters and HBO Max this year. What does worry me though is, and it's hard to argue that it's necessarily a bad thing, because obviously for Warner's, it's fair enough for them to do whatever's going to be the best for them financially. They shouldn't necessarily have to consider the theaters as part of that, even though it's a very relevant business to them. I don't know, maybe it's like, it's a short-term thing. It's like short-term, it could be really good for them and bad for theaters, but long-term, if all the theaters end up shutting down, actually that's going to be bad for Warner's, because they won't be able to then sell their movies in theaters anymore. Or maybe Disney will end up buying all the theaters, and then they won't show any Warner's movies, or they'll charge a high-ass price for them. And only Disney ends up making money in theaters or something. I guess a possible future.
That's bad as well.
So yes, there are worries about if this 2021 plan continues for the whole decade, like, that could dramatically change everything. And like, movie habits are already changing, and we can't stop movie habits, viewing habits from changing. We kind of have to adapt and figure out, well, not we, but the studios have to adapt and figure out what consumers want from a movie watching experience, and they're going to go with the most popular option, which for most people is just watching it, as horrible as it sounds, just on a phone or a laptop on HBO Max. It makes me cringe, but it happens.
I think as long as there's a demand for theaters will stick around, and there are people who
like me,
and there are people who do want to see movies in theaters.
I think probably what's going to happen is there's going to be less of them. I think a lot of them will close down. The big chains might close down. It might just be your small local ones, which would be cool. Maybe I'm not sure. Because those are the ones that people want to go to, and they just want to be in a theater.
Yeah, for sure.
But imagine if that like big Imax theater got taken out. Like, that's a big like experience that big blockbuster comes out, a bunch of people go to the Imax theater to watch the newest. But even though, depending on the movie, you usually shouldn't be going to the Imax because it's a waste of money. But tangent on that, I did recently fall in love with IMAX again when I saw The Dark Knight in that theater. But like, it's so rare that there's a movie that's worth watching in that theater, just because it's not usually shot on IMAX and stuff. Anyway. But just the idea in general of going to a big movie theater with a bunch of people to see a blockbuster, like, that's still a fun experience, and that might be happening a lot less. Yes, I don't know. But then again, having said that, a lot of the movies I've been to this year, there've been decent crowds, there've been enough people to warrant the theaters being open, I guess. I don't know. I'm not a financial advisor. I shouldn't be telling theaters what to do. I'm selfish. I want to be in the theater.
Yeah. No, I get that. Like I said, it always goes down to the story of supply and demand at the end of the day.
Right.
The age-old economic principle.
Yeah,
no, I think you've absolutely hit it on the head. I think what we will see is a decrease in the amount of theaters, but I don't think that theaters will completely die out.
You know what would be cool?
Yeah.
What could be a cool like intermediate step is if Disney and HBO offered like an extreme premium plan where you pay an extra fee and they come in and fit your house out with like a big TV and surround speakers and stuff.
Oh yeah.
So that you can have a proper theater experience.
Theater,
because that's one of the biggest problems I have with people being so content with the streaming services, is like the streaming services themselves aren't really an issue. They're really great places for people to be able to watch movies. The problem is that most people don't watch them in a good format on a big screen with good sound.
Yeah.
So many people don't understand why they need to buy external speakers. TVs aren't made for sound. You don't buy a TV for the sound quality. You buy it for the picture quality. If you want sound, you want to hear anything, you should be using external speakers. Even just a stereo, like $200 Logitech desktop speakers, which I have at home. I used them like all through last year as my TV speakers, and they're great. They offer a decent frequency range that supports a movie's dynamic range. So many people, I hate seeing this online when people complain about, how like the dialogue mix is always too quiet and then the loud explosions happens. You have to turn the volume down, but you got to turn it back up to hear the dialogue. No, you don't. If you really are really dumb and you just don't want to buy external speakers, there's an option in your media player probably to reduce loud sound or reduce dynamic range, in which case that would help you out if you really are just that stubborn. But in every other case, if you want to enjoy a movie and you don't want to complain about the sound mix, buy a pair of speakers that actually is made to be listened to, and you'll hear everything fine and you won't have to change the volume. Honestly, they're not that hard to, like, it's not that hard to figure out. It's like imagine if like the default thing, instead of buying a TV, was to buy the speaker system and it came with like a small 10-inch screen, and people started complaining about how movies aren't made properly because we can't see them on the 10-inch screen. You know, like that's what people are actually saying. They just don't. They're not putting it because visually, visually it's not as striking. To miss the sound. People don't think about it so much. They're like, oh, it just sounds bad. They just assume the movie mix is bad. Yeah. No, you just need speakers. Yeah. You just need speakers. So yeah, if it's just like a premium tier where they could deck your house out with some surround sound and stuff, people would enjoy themselves much more, and it'd be so much more worth watching it. And like, I don't want to watch blockbusters for the first time if it's not if it doesn't sound nice and look good. So if that's in a theater or in a nice home theater setup, that's what I want. I don't want to watch it on shitty TV with bad speakers. Simple as that. And the streaming services should be advocating for that, or just offer some sales or some links to other places where people can deck out their places, Yeah. They should be encouraging a better viewing experience.
Yeah, basically be like, hey, if you want a better thing, here are some options. Yeah.
You use discount code HBO Max 2020 for 10% off, and you can get a good stuff like that.
Yeah.
That would be cool.
And that would be good for both, the streaming services and, say JB Hi-Fi or Harvey Norman or whatever.
Yeah, like Sony would be a good one because Sony both makes movies and makes hi-fi systems and TVs.
Yeah.
They could do it. They don't have a streaming service yet, but they might do. That could be a thing they could do. Sony, if you're listening, do it. You don't even have to pay me anything. Just make it available for me.
That's a free idea.
Yeah. As long as it's available in New Zealand.
Yeah, make it available in New Zealand.
Don't be Disney.
Yeah. Not available in your location.
We don't care that your theaters are open because it won't give us enough money to be worth me thinking about. No, shut up, Disney. You suck. You suck. And I will say that publicly.
Yeah.
If you were to place your bets on like 10 or 20 years from now, like what do you think the typical movie watching experience would be? What would you describe it would be?
It's a good question. 10 or 20 years?
Even 10 years. The end of
10 years?
The end of this next decade.
Okay, 10 years. Let's go 10 years. I think we'll see a major decrease in the amount of theaters.
Not even just like what happens over time. Like literally, you're gonna go watch the new Marvel movie. How are you doing it?
Okay. How am I doing it personally?
Yeah.
How's the average person?
Average consumer. What are they doing?
The average consumer.
Are they going to a theater? Are they getting on a train and watching it on their iPad on the way to work?
I feel like for big blockbusters, there's still a demand for theaters. So I would imagine they would be watching it in a theater. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Like if people go to a theater, they're usually seeing the latest release from whether that be a Marvel film or a Disney film. Obviously, it's all fucking Disney, but yeah. So I would say that they're going to a theater. What about you?
Here's what I think.
Yeah,
they have the choice. They can stay home and watch a Disney, or they can go outside and watch a Disney at the Disney theater, where they only play Disney movies, because that's all that will be.
Okay, yeah.
Because Disney will own most of the movie theaters.
Yeah,
they're gonna run it themselves. And they'll have some real nice theaters probably.
Yeah.
But it'll be only for Disney movies. And you won't be able to see your small time local films in their theaters because they don't have time for that.
Yeah.
Or they're just going to be doing reruns of Pinocchio.
Yeah.
Both the live action and the animated version.
Yeah.
Live action, of course, was just been recently announced.
Yeah.
To be made next year or something like that. Yep. Of course. Remakes and everything else. That's all it is.
Did you see... I remember I saw, it was like a Facebook post or something, and it was like a timeline, and it was like showing Disney slowly taking over the world.
Yeah, I think I saw that, yeah.
And it got to a point where it was like ridiculous, where it was like 2050, they've got their own like base on the moon or some shit.
Yeah.
They're taking over. We're all going to be slaves to the mouse.
Yep. We already are. I mean, so many people are. I was for a whole year. I paid for Disney Plus for a year. I don't know why. Shouldn't have done that. It was a mistake because because in the last year they released like 2 shows that I watched. They were the High School Musical, the musical series, and The Mandalorian.
Yeah.
I don't think I watched anything else that was new content on that series.
Yeah.
I watched a couple of movies that were old movies. Other than that, like, why the hell was it worth paying all that money? No, it was not.
Yeah.
They did nothing for us, and they still haven't released the latest Marvel show that they announced a year or 2 ago. Like it's meant to be coming out in this month, but I'm like, it's too late. Like, it should have been on your platform on day one. That was like one of your biggest sellers was this Marvel stuff, and they've just held on to it.
Yeah,
like
that's weird.
Like, I get that there were production delays, but it was like, maybe, I don't know, maybe they could have reduced the price during COVID when they weren't releasing so much new content and stuff. Like,
yeah, like
there are other platforms like Apple's platform and Amazon. Like, the price point is a bit lower.
Yeah.
And they're actually releasing new stuff constantly.
Yeah.
Disney hasn't even, but like, there's nothing other than like The Mandalorian for them to really even show. Yeah. And even then, like, I'm not a big Star Wars fan, so it's like not enough to pull in.
Yeah, it's not a Yeah, it's not like enough of an incentive.
Like they should be doing.
Incentive.
They could have been doing a lot more. And I fell for that trap. I was like, it's such a good deal, $9.90 a month, and you get all the Disney films ever. I'm like, well, now that I think about it, it's not really necessary. One of the big drawing factors with me is that so a few years ago, Apple came up with this deal for iTunes to have 4K HDR movies.
Yeah,
and they obviously signed these deals with all these studios independently, and all the studios except Disney signed this deal so that users could get upgrades on their 4K movies at no additional price. You pay the same price whether it's HD or 4K. And Disney didn't want to sign that deal because they wanted people to pay extra for 4K. And one of the things that pissed me off but drew me into Disney Plus was I could see the 4K HDR movies through their platform.
Yeah.
But literally like a month ago or less than that, I saw on iTunes all the Disney catalog's been upgraded to 4K. So now I'm just like, sweet.
Yeah.
Now I don't need Disney Plus for that even for that. So bye Disney.
Yeah.
You don't have anything I need anymore. So.
Yeah. I mean that's how it works. It's it's whatever product or service you're buying into does it provide what you want.
The problem these days is with subscriptions, people just have them and forget about them. They're just like, but I might use it eventually. I might use it in next month or something, and they don't, and so they keep paying for it.
Yeah, and then you're just throwing money away, burning money. Yeah. Have we sort of wrapped up with main topic?
I suppose so.
I feel like we have.
And I guess I briefly mentioned before something I was watching, but I guess we can continue.
Yeah.
Talking about what we've been watching in our segment, which is
What You Doing?
Where we talk about what we've been doing, what we've been watching, what we've been reading. Do we read anymore? Do you read? I don't read.
Just trying to think. Have I read anything lately?
I mean, in the last
probably not
3 years now. In the last 3 years, I've read maybe 4 or 5 of the Avatar graphic novels.
Yeah,
that's all I've read.
Yeah,
literally in the last 3 years.
I don't think I've read
else.
I don't think I've read any physical.
Yeah, not like a book or a fiction or anything. Like obviously reading articles and stuff like that.
Yeah, Yeah, I don't think I've read anything physical. I've probably read stuff like online and that, like ebooks and shit like that.
Oh yeah,
or whatever.
But as for what I've been watching, I want to talk about what I watched on Saturday last week. There's a new documentary called The Mystery of DB Cooper.
Hey.
And I've talked about Lemino before on this podcast, who is, I think, the greatest YouTuber of all time. He makes the best videos ever. And January-ish, I want to say, or January, May, April, it was earlier this year, he released a video about DB Cooper, and it's one of the most fascinating videos. All his videos are fascinating, but you should go watch his video about DB Cooper. And yeah, so the story is about this guy that hijacked an airplane in the 70s, 80s?
Yeah.
79 maybe? Ransomed some money, got $200,000 delivered to him, and then took off and jumped out of the plane, was never found. And it's just a fascinating story, basically. So I highly encourage you to go watch that video. And then literally I showed this to my flatmate the other day, and then we went to a movie and saw a poster for this documentary.
Oh, really?
And so I was like, oh, that's cool. And so then I went and saw the documentary, and yeah, I recommend it as a follow-up to watching the Lemino doco.
Okay. Yeah.
The Lemino doco is about 29, 30 minutes.
Yeah.
And then this one's like closer to 80 minutes or 90 minutes probably.
Yeah.
I can tell you it's 87 minutes. Yep. So yeah, I highly recommend watching that as a follow-up if you are fascinated by the story. It delves more into the suspects of the crime, of the potential crime, and goes through just a series of anecdotal evidence from all these people who it's very fascinating because it's all these people are convinced that they know the person that jumped out of that plane. They know the hijacker, and it's like, well, they can't all be right.
Yeah.
It feels like they'll have convincing evidence, but actually a lot of it's quite circumstantial.
Yeah.
And there's actually really only one suspect who I'm like, damn, that's really compelling evidence.
Yeah.
So I highly encourage you to watch the video, and if you are compelled to watch the movie as well. Don't know how long it's in theaters for.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
Because I've heard of the case and looked into the case. Funnily enough, I haven't watched the documentary or Lumino's video.
Yeah.
I saw a video by this is a guilty pleasure of mine. So I'm gonna wait to see Ben's reaction of BuzzFeed Unsolved. Yeah, it's a guilty pleasure of mine. But yeah, that's what I saw of the case. I love BuzzFeed Unsolved. It's so good. What else have you been watching? Anything else?
In terms of new movies, Mank, the film about Herman Mankiewicz, who's the guy that wrote Citizen Kane.
Okay.
Released the first 2 drafts.
Yeah.
Story about him writing a movie. It's interesting. It's very nicely shot.
Yeah.
Really, really nicely shot, which is weird because they've made the sound mix sound oddly like it was recorded in the 60s. So it sounds like really compressed and kind of... No, that's not the sound I'm trying to make. Good God. It's the... Hello, everybody, and Senator Hanley. You know, that kind of sound. I don't know how to... I'm trying to emulate that. I don't know what the hell sound I made before. So they make it sound really old-timey, but it looks incredible. So that there's a bit of a
mismatch.
It doesn't really make sense that it just shouldn't need to sound that bad because it kind of ruins that experience. Because it should just feel a bit more real, I think. But it was directed by David Fincher, so and it's on Netflix now. I saw it in theaters. It might still be out in theaters. I'm not sure. I saw a New Zealand horror film called Reunion, I always say that word wrong, which is very interesting. It was quite compelling, but there was, I guess, it's oddly similar to an Australian film I saw earlier this year called Relic, which oddly similar in structure and pace and everything. I found Relic a bit more compelling than Reunion, but Reunion is still very interesting and worth a watch, worth supporting a New Zealand film. And another movie that I watched recently, which is a film from 2012 called The Place Beyond the Pines. One of the best movies I've seen all year. It amazed me and just how genuinely gripping and fantastic it was. And it's another movie that I love for subverting ordinary structure in filmmaking and its kind of poetic storytelling, which is just something that I just love. So those are the movies I've seen in the last couple of weeks. TV, I've just been watching Atypical. I finished the first or the 3rd season or whatever it is on Netflix that they have at the moment. I finished that yesterday. And other than that, it's just been rewatching Office, whatever. I've been listening to new music. I been maybe 4 months ago. I don't know how long ago it was.
Time is an illusion.
I feel like it was after we last did a podcast, but then again, that was also ages ago.
Yeah.
So I made this playlist of 2,000 songs that I didn't know. Based off you might, if you like this artist, you might like this person. Yeah. And so I would add an album to this playlist and added a bunch of stuff from various artists and found some recommended playlists and stuff. Added it all. And have it on shuffle when I'm driving around and stuff. And for the most part, I'm actually really enjoying the music. There's occasionally I'm oh, what is this song? Gross, skip it. Yeah. Or remove it from the playlist. I'm trying to whittle down and find the ones that I really love and add them to a best of playlist and just find new music. And I've been really enjoying just discovering new stuff that I didn't really know that I liked or didn't know of at all. Phoebe Bridgers in particular, I want to mention, who my flatmate introduced me to, and she's. Her stuff's great. I'm in love with it. Highly recommend. Yeah, I don't think I'm doing anything else. What else am I doing? I don't know. Nothing. Chilling out. Trying to figure out this crazy thing called life that is stressful and crazy and ridiculous. Yeah. So much going on. Yeah. Not enough to talk about. Too much to talk about in a podcast.
Yeah. I've been pretty slack, man. I haven't really been watching much in regards to movies or TV. Last movie I watched was Tenet in theaters. That was the last, which I think I talked about last.
I guess it did come out in July. I only watched it a couple of weeks ago for the 3rd time.
Yeah. But
it still feels recent because it's still in theaters. Yeah. Yeah.
But I literally haven't watched anything since in theaters or at home. I just haven't been watching anything.
Well, that's not ideal.
Yeah. But I was watching a little bit of BuzzFeed Unsolved, true crime. I love true crime, man. It's so interesting. Yeah, like I said, that's definitely a big guilty pleasure of mine. I've recently started listening to a new podcast well, not a new podcast, but a new podcast to me, which was My Favorite Murder, which is basically two women, and they each episode they bring a murder case and then they talk about it. Yeah, it's cool. It's interesting. Very much they sort of mix. It's not like if you're looking for like details and like data and shit, you're probably not going to get it. It's definitely more of like a sort of casual thing to it, and very much comedic as well. They sort of, like just joke around and stuff, which I like. In a similar vein that BuzzFeed Unsolved does a similar thing. They sort of joke around and stuff as well, which I like. That's about it for me, really. I've been slack. I need to pick up the rope. I don't know.
The rope doesn't rhyme with slack.
Well, nah, because slack.
She said something like jack or.
Well, I was going for slack as in rope. You give slack on a rope.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. No. So you see, picking up that rope that you put
in. Yeah. Yeah. So I assume we have no comments.
Crunchy comments. If we did have crunchy comments, we would have done it in the previous episode.
Yeah. Okay. Cool.
We usually do. I'm assuming we also have none. We should I want to be able to do like an episode where we would just like read comments from people.
Yeah.
I'm fascinated by the idea of just answering random questions.
Yeah, same.
Like that doesn't have to mean anything or be of any relevance to anything. Just ask a question. I want to be prompted by somebody else.
Yeah.
I have to like figure it out on my own.
Yeah. Hard. Same. Just let other people create the content, It's easy. All right. Well, that's been another episode, another year, because I assume that this is going to be the last one for the year.
This one will probably be in the new year.
Yeah.
So hopefully it's not the last one for the year. If it does come out in the new year.
Yeah, that's true.
Because then it would be the first and last.
Yeah.
Like first and last one, which is maybe you should watch.
Great movie.
Go watch it.
All right. Yeah. So that's it. All right. Happy New Year. Merry Christmas.
Happy
yada
New
yada.
Year.
Happy holidays.
Holidays.
All that stuff.
If you're lucky enough to have holidays. Which I mean, some people like don't have much. Like if you were in like retail or something,
true.
It's a bit shit,
Yeah.
Working like pretty much every day except Christmas Day.
I used to live that life. Oof. It was dark times.
Yeah.
All right. Bye. My name's been Matt.
Merry New Year. And I've been Ben Claus.
Bye.
It's funny because my name spelt phonetically looks like claws instead of clothes.
Yeah.
So that's why I've been calling myself Ben Claus and putting a hat on my profile picture, Santa hat.
I saw that.
Adding myself a Santa hat, and I changed my name on Facebook.
I saw that.
Which you can't change back for 60 days. So I'm probably just never going to change it back now.
Yeah.
I think it's cool. I don't care. It's like Facebook's a joke anyway.
Yeah.
So, screw Facebook.
Yeah.
Screw Facebook. Screw Disney. Screw Nestle. You all suck ass.
Eat the rich.
Bye bye. Bye bye now.